Chapter 2: Predators and Their Prey. A voice speaking of an idea is only as powerful as the number of people willing to listen to it and to adopt that idea. This seems to be the case regardless of the motives to why the voice spoke about the idea. If something resonates with you, if it makes sense to you, and if the person voicing the idea to you is someone that you find appealing in one way or the other, you are more likely to keep listening. There is nothing even remotely strange with that. However, the next level of thought on this would be to try and understand exactly why the voice is speaking these ideas. What is the motive? For what purpose? Is it with a genuine motive to give me something that could potentially be beneficial to me, or is it being spoken out of self-interest? Furthermore, does it matter what their motives are? There are those that speak of the idea out of true altruistic motives. In other words, they have a genuine desire in communicating things to others that can really make a positive difference in their lives. On the flip side of that spectrum are those who speak of ideas with only self-interest as a motivation. Somewhere in between the two extremes are those who speak of ideas with various blends of altruistic and self-interest motives. The latter two types of voices are the ones we need to be particularly careful with. Few of them will outright admit that there is partial or full self-interest that motivates them. This is since that truth alone would make them instantly lose some, if not all, of their audience. Instead, you can expect them to either consciously or subconsciously camouflage their true motives and package their messaging in a way that they think will better appeal to you. For the sake of this exercise, let's call them predators. They are aspiring to take some sort of leadership role for a group that they can then fully control. I am more afraid of an army of sheep led by a lion than I am for an army of lions led by a sheep. The people who listen to these voices and who decide to follow the ideas presented have hopefully applied at least some level of analysis to what they have been told before making up their mind to follow them. If they did not bother to critically examine the idea but decided to follow on a whim, boosted by their perception that everyone else thinks so too, they may find themselves caught up in something that they deep down really don't agree with. For the sake of this exercise, let's call them prey. They come on board based on poor or non-existing analysis, they do as they are told, and they don't want to be expelled by everyone else who are following the idea that the predator presented as the truth. The individual prey is quite harmless, but if you've got a large number of preys, a whole herd, you're in power, because you've got the numbers, and any empire needs a lot of prey. You just have to point them in a certain direction, and they will all go that way whether it's right or wrong. A paradox is that the prey will often even make up excuses for the predator's behavior and defend his/her position and ideas as the truth, that they are sometimes even willing to do the ultimate sacrifice. That the means justifies the ends. It may be argued that there is no clear and absolute correlation between the level of intelligence or education and the inclination of voluntarily becoming prey. The same people who are generally and widely perceived as smart, intelligent, and educated can sometimes turn around and behave in the most irrational, uninformed, unexplainable, and sometimes destructive way when something extraordinary happens. A fairly recent example of this is the large hordes of usually intelligent and rational people who were mindlessly hoarding incredible amounts of toilet paper during the pandemic lockdowns. Stocking up on the basic needs such as water and food was not a priority. It was taken for granted that those supplies would never run out. When asked why they went out hunting for toilet paper at the time and what they were thinking, They frequently answered that they saw their neighbours doing it, and so they thought they would do it too before the toilet paper runs out from the shelves. The minute they answered the question, and only then, many of them realised that they had followed others blindly and without questioning it. There are some short-term benefits of being a prey. Namely, you don't have to put in the effort and energy to think for yourself. You just have to thoughtlessly follow everyone else, and that takes no effort. However, the price you end up paying at some point will be nothing less than catastrophic, because weak-minded people are cannon fodder to psychopaths. Human predators possess at least some degree of psychopathic or sociopathic traits, so there is reason to watch out. Being prey is therefore not a particularly good long-term strategy. For those who have no urge to be predators and who have no desire in becoming prey, there is a third option. They could become protectors. The protectors that will keep the predators in check to prevent them from harming the prey. For the sake of this exercise, let's call them sheepdogs. The sheepdogs will carefully study the intentions of any animal approaching what they are protecting, and they won't hesitate to stand up and defend if needed. Applying this in the human world, these protectors will carefully examine and size up anyone voicing an idea to a crowd. They will not take the idea at face value, but will go beyond that and figure out the motives behind it, and they won't hesitate to stand up and say no, even when facing the risk of expulsion from the group for doing so. Predators can easily control a large group of prey, but it is no coincidence that the predator will take every opportunity to get rid of the sheepdog, because it is the sheepdog that stands in its way to reach the prey. Even worse, the sheepdog may plant an idea in the prey that makes the herd change direction and go the other way. The predator can't have that, because that makes him/her lose their power. Think of any random totalitarian regime throughout humanity. Who were the first ones that those dictators got rid of? It was the intellectuals, the philosophers, and similar thinkers, people who had the ability to develop and plant new ideas into the prey, the majority of the population. They were the ones that were persecuted, locked up, silenced, and even killed. They were the real threat to the dictators. But this surely can't happen in societies that build upon democratic principles, right? Well, you be the judge. Some would argue that this is already happening in principle, but with a completely different set of tools other than swords, guns, and other types of physical weapons. Some would argue that getting rid of the sheepdogs is something that is happening, and has been happening since the introduction of internet, using the weapons of misinformation, disinformation, and manipulation of public opinion through media and social media platforms. It may be argued that the existence of predators, prey, and those that protect the prey is something that you, alone, can't change in the greater scheme of things. It seems that this overarching human structure has been around for a very long time, and it probably wouldn't be a far stretch to assume that it's not going away any time soon. It is what it is, so to speak. But as a human, you certainly do have a choice, and you can certainly make the necessary moves to put you where you think you belong in the structure. No matter where you think that you should be in the structure, it may be wise to make an informed decision about it. This partially circles us back to the first chapter in this paper on managing information. Proposed approach and key takeaways to consider. 13. Do you want to be a predator, prey, or the one that protects the prey? All three of these choices come with certain sacrifices and consequences. Some of the consequences won't be pleasant. Use your moral compass and think of where you want to be. 14. If you don't have a moral compass, or the one that you have cannot be relied on, start repairing it or craft a new one for yourself. Without a moral compass, it is much more difficult to solve problem 13, as you don't know where you're going. 15. Listen carefully to voices expressing ideas. Be courageous and listen to all of them, even if they happen to be unpleasant. They may shatter your previous ideas or just give you new ones that are simply better than your old ones. The beauty of that is that you don't have to admit it to anyone else than to yourself if you don't want to. Alternatively, they may strengthen your existing ideas if they resonate with yours. You may also find that the idea you listen to is a bunch of nonsense and you can simply throw it in the bin. In all of these cases, you win. If you choose not to listen, you risk missing out on potentially life-changing insights, and only you can determine whether or not you can afford that. 16. While dealing with key takeaways 13 to 15, repetitively read key takeaways 1 to 12 as a mantra. This will increase your chances of maintaining your sanity in the process, to detect any predators lurking in the shadows, and ultimately identifying their motives once you've managed to see through their camouflage of their alleged good intentions.